call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I'd like to begin by thanking the member, Stuart Robert, the member for Fadden, for bringing this motion to the attention of the House, and particularly in standing up for the rights and the freedoms of the State of Israel, which have too often been ignored in this place. The reality is, as a nation, we have allies, and allies who stand with us through thick and thin and whom we should reciprocate. And Israel is one of those states that should continue to enjoy the support of this country and this government, and will continue to do so. And my only hope is that we can say the same at some future point should there be another government of a different political persuasion, because the reality is we know there is not the same commitment as often sits on this side of the House. Every member of this side of the House believes strongly in the right of Israel to exist freely and to exist without threat or intimidation, to be able to provide a homeland for the Jewish people. And I can say, as a member of this House, with an electorate which has a very high percentage of the Jewish community in Melbourne, that my position is resolute and uncompromising. Because in the end, the heart of this debate and this issue is whether we as a nation stand for enlarging the freedom of all people to live their lives in safety and peace. There are many other debates where we take a very similar position and should continue to do so. And having visited Jerusalem myself, I have seen the consequences firsthand of what happens when some people seek to deny that liberty and that peace. And particularly some of the efforts of the Palestinian authorities and those who support them to deceive the public into getting misrepresentations or misunderstandings about what actually occurs, particularly under the State of Israel. In fact, one of my visits to Israel many years ago, we were given a briefing about the activities of Palestinian Watch, which was particularly scrutinising Palestinian media and how they sought to misrepresent information to build a perception of victimhood that was not always in accordance with reality. And sometimes these things or these examples can bring a certain degree of scepticism. I myself, being the first-time visitor, brought scepticism to some of the claims that were presented to me, until we went to Bethlehem and went to a refugee camp to speak directly to Palestinians about some of the challenges that they faced. While we were there, we saw a group of young children throwing rocks at IDF soldiers, which eventually led and escalated to the point where the IDF tear-gassed. I can say one of my bucket list being tear-gassed by the IDF, I can tick off. But that's not a point of humour, it's just a point of reality. Like anybody else who's been tear-gassed, you'll know it's not a particularly pleasant experience. But the critical point was afterwards. What we saw was misrepresentations in the Palestinian media that we were attacked by the IDF. That was not true. In fact, they were provoked by those who were encouraged to throw rocks and commit violence against IDF soldiers who acted then to defend themselves. And this is just one of many examples where we see misrepresentations to try and build a sense of sympathy with the Palestinian cause, of which I think many people have, but it should be rooted in facts and reality. I've previously spoken in this chamber about my frustration of the conduct of UNESCO and trying to deny and erase from history the connection between Jewish people and the Temple Mount, and understanding that if you look at the effort made by some people who want to disconnect that relationship, what they're amounting to is a cultural genocide of people's past and their connection, and we should not be ashamed or afraid to call it out. And I acknowledge the select number of members opposite who are prepared to do that for making the same principle. And as somebody who has Armenian heritage and knows exactly what it means not just to have an actual genocide but a cultural genocide against their people, we must remain determined always to stand up against these measures, because it's not just about erasing people, but it is also about, or the attention is about, erasing people's memory and legacy and the culture and traditions that inform them and continue to inform their future. Finally, Deputy Speaker, in giving my support very strongly to this motion, I want to reflect on the ongoing discussion about whether our embassy should be based in Jerusalem. And as a proud supporter of Israel, a proud supporter of recognising Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and being a proud Australian, I can see no reason that we should not be able to relocate our embassy to Jerusalem on the basis that it is safe for Australians. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.